hello, come on into the room. How are we all doing today? If you're watching this live, I want to know about it, okay? If you're watching this live, please make sure you're not hiding in the background, you're not hiding in the shadows. Say something in the comment section, say hello, ask me a question, tell me a fun fact about you, let me know where you're listening in from. Anything whatsoever, okay? Just so that I know you're watching this live. So I'm just gonna wait for the comments to come in. So guys, yes, if you're watching this live, let me know a fun fact about you. It can be something big, it can be something small, it can be a secret, it can be something you never told anyone before, it could be something that everybody knows about you, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just want to know, right? So we've got Lauren in the house. Lauren McGee says, hello everyone on this beautiful, beautiful day. You are absolutely right, Lauren. It is a gorgeous day out there. It's very sunny here in London, and I think it's sunny across the whole of the United Kingdom as well. And we got Denise Walden in the house as well. Denise, how you doing? Says, fun fact, I once ran into Oprah in a shopping centre in Zurich and asked, are you Oprah? I have to ask, Denise, what did she say? Did she deny it? Did she say, no, I'm not Oprah, pretending that she wasn't and then moving on? Or did she proudly say, yes, it is me, it's Oprah, you found me, I'm in Zurich? Let me know, let me know. Yes, Chris Scott in the house, TCM Power Ranger. Chris Scott, love it, love it. Says, hey Liam, hey team, how you doing, Chris? Chris sent me a voice note yesterday. Something awesome has happened to Chris recently, and I have a very, very strong feeling that Chris is going to continuously manifest incredible things into his life as of now because of having taken a huge step out of his comfort zone in the right direction to become a TCM Power Ranger. Love that. Chris, you're awesome. Saynabs is in the house. Saynab says, hello, all you beautiful, amazing people. Viadis says, hey, Liam, listening from work. Instead of working, prison breaker. He's a prison breaker. Love that. We've got Akeisha Graham says, hello, everyone. Nina Crawford says, hey, Liam, I'm watching live. Shirley Miller says, hello. Alex Eaton says, hey, Liam, and everyone. Ironic, it's raining in Malaysia and nice weather in the UK. That is ironic. It is absolutely gorgeous here in the UK today. So guys, before I jump in, I've actually been really very, very, very sick over the last 24 hours. More than that, over the last 48 hours, right? So much so that I'm actually a little bit short of breath, right? I haven't got COVID or anything like that. I'm feeling the pain right at the moment. So I've actually had an infection in my intestine, which is just like that area of your stomach just underneath your belly button, right? And I tell you what, if you have not ever had an infection in your intestines before, it is fucking horrific. Like the worst thing in the world, like really, 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 really bad. And you know me, right? It is very unusual for me to get sick. Like I'm talking, this is like a once every couple of years thing. Think about it. How many hundreds of episodes of Power Hour have I done? And how many hundreds of episodes of TCM TV have I done? I don't believe once out of all of the hundreds of episodes missed an episode because I'm sick, right? Because I very rarely get sick. But 48 hours ago, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was about 4 a.m. and I was just in excruciating pain in my stomach. And so much so that I had 2 amazing days planned in London with Lewis and with Johnny, meeting up with potential investors, some of which were coaching masters. And I couldn't even make it, right? I've literally just been at home, locked away for 2 days. I'm talking fucking major sick, like bad, bad sick, to the point where Claudia actually called an ambulance for me, right? Yesterday morning. I was rolling around on the floor in so much pain. I can't even explain it. But anyway, we're going to move forward. Boom, boom. I don't think it's going to be a long episode today, if I'm being honest. Kind of struggling. Let's get through it, right? Because we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting topic. So I went to the hospital yesterday. I had a few tests done. It was pretty nasty. And then they discovered that I've got this infection in my intestines, which is just like, oh God, it's just so shit. But anyway, guys, let's push on. Let's move forward. As always, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the support. I'm always going to do everything I can to turn up, to add value to your lives, to help inspire you, to help motivate you, regardless of how I'm feeling, regardless of what state I'm in. We breathe through it. we move on and get this shit done, because I am talking about a topic that I do feel particularly passionate about today. But I love all the support. I can see that coming through in the comment section. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Monica, Alex, Emma, Viadis. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, everyone here. So I love you all. Appreciate you. Thank you for the support. It does make me feel a lot better. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now back live in the studio. The studio being my bedroom. I'm still loving that, right? I now run a $25 million organization, but I am such an advocate for working from home and being completely remote that even with the coaching masters now being valued at $25 million and I've got 60 plus employees, why would I not work from my bedroom? I just don't understand it. Okay, fair enough. If I had a home office, that would be cool. I did have a home office. That's now Posey's room. I will have a home office when we move into a bigger place, which is going to be probably at some point next year. But you know what? I'm still loving the fact that being completely remote, I'm working from my bedroom. After this, I'm going to go and sit in the sun for a little bit out on my terrace. So yeah, when we talk about having that freedom-based lifestyle and we talk about being able to work from anywhere you want and working from home, that doesn't change regardless of how big your organization gets. So anyway, back into the Coaching Masters podcast. And today we're talking about a particularly interesting topic. We're talking about the reasons as to why the coaching industry is now valued at $20 billion. That's billion with a B, okay, with a B. Now, it takes 1 million 1,000 times over to make 1 billion, right? So I just really want that to sink in for everybody. And I do believe I'm right about that. I've actually read online that there's a couple of different ways that people analyze what a billion is, which I just think is like ridiculous, because surely a billion's, it's a set thing, right? So it's 1,000 million. So it's a million 1,000 times that makes a billion. So the coaching industry is currently valued at $1 million 20,000 times over, right? 20,000 times over. Some of the listeners, I don't doubt, have this anyway, so you know what this feels like. But for everybody, you know, one thing that I want you guys to remember, 5 years ago, I was a full-time Royal Mail postman. My dad was a plumber. I'm from a very working class part of Southeast London. So I'm right here with you, right? I'm visualizing this stuff. I'm right here with you. So imagine having $1 million, okay? $1 million, which in Great British pounds is, I don't know. Let's see. Hey Siri, what's $1 million in pounds?
$1 million is 756,940 pounds.
756,000 pounds, right? 756,000 pounds. Let me know in the comments, if someone was to drop 756,000 pounds into your bank account tomorrow, right? It's $1 million. $1 million is 756,000 pounds. If someone was to drop that into your bank account tomorrow, what would you do with that money? Just let me know in the comments, what would you do with that money? So anyway, now imagine that you've got $1 million 20,000 times over. 20,000 times. That is what the coaching industry is worth. It's worth $20 billion. That's $1 million 1,000 times over, 20 times, right? I just can't, I really need to emphasize the vastness and the hugeness and the gigantic nature of a billion, right? Because nowadays, we hear that term a lot, right? Unicorn business. It's $1 billion business. It's $1 billion app. Facebook worth $120 billion. Jeff Bezos worth $170 billion, whatever, right? We hear these numbers like they're nothing, because we hear them all the time at the moment. Billion, billion, billion. But again, I just want to rewind this, and I really, really, really want to emphasize how much a billion actually is. A billion is a million 1,000 times. Right? 1,000 times. So let's check if I'm right about that. Someone Google this for me, right? I've Googled this a few times and I find these articles that go on and on and on and on and on. I asked one question, right? One question. Everybody get your phones out. Let's Google how many millions in a billion, right? 1,000. 1,000 million. See that on the screen? Everybody that's watching this live? 1,000 million goes into a billion. That seems like such a gigantic number to me. I just really wanted to triple check that. I find that hard to process. Like I genuinely still to this day find that hard to process. that $1 billion, and I know I feel like I'm repeating myself, I find it hard for it to sink in, is $1 million 1,000 times over, right? Therefore, a $20 billion industry, which is the coaching industry, is $1 million 20,000 times over. I mean, I'm sure the vast majority of people would be happy even if £20,000 or $20,000 was dropped into their bank account tomorrow, right? Just like that. Now, what about the $1 million 20,000 times over? Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on about that because it blows my fucking mind. It blows my mind. So anyway, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about some of the reasons as to why the coaching industry is now valued at $20 billion. Now, one thing that I could do with this podcast episode is I could do what everybody else does and they dive into the statistics, right? Now, I'm not going to do that in this podcast episode because what I think that you guys like whenever we have a discussion like this, and by the way, that's how I view this. Like, just to let you know, that's exactly how I view this, as a chat, as a discussion. In the same way, that's how I view every single talk I ever do on stage, every time I ever present anything, every time I do any training, anytime I do a podcast episode, I view this as a chit chat, right? This is just a discussion between you and me, and it just happens to be a topic that I know about, right? So what I'm not going to do, because what you could do and what I recommend you do is I recommend you go and Google the coaching industry, $20 billion. How do you reach that valuation? And all of that stuff, right? And what you'll find is you'll find lots of different organizations and lots of different articles that give you loads of different statistics around statistically why the coaching industry is valued at $20 billion. And I do recommend you do that. We're not doing that in this podcast episode because what I feel you guys value whenever we have one of these chats is I feel that you value my perception, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you this from my perspective. Now, my perspective has been built upon three different things, right? When it comes to the coaching industry, right? And the reason as to why I have this viewpoint: observation, participation, and creation. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Now, of course, I have a very, very keen eye for observation when it comes to anything to do with the coaching industry, because I am the coaching industry. The Coaching Masters is the coaching industry. We collectively as an organization, and you guys as members and listeners of this podcast and members of Coaching Mastery, we are the coaching industry. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. There are different people inside of the coaching space. There are different training organizations. There are different whatever. And I'm in my lane. I'm not even thinking about them. I'm not even looking at them, right? I'm in my lane. And that's how the Coaching Masters has been so successful so quickly, because we're not looking at what anybody else is doing. We're in our own lane and we're focused firmly on the future. So because I have the firm belief that the Coaching Masters is the coaching industry, that's why quite clearly I have a very firm and clear and eager eye for observation as to what is going on as a whole inside of this industry. Now, that sounds like a little bit of a juxtaposition because I've just said I'm in my own lane and I'm not focused on what the competition is doing. But when I say that, it's that I have a very keen eye for observation as to what's going on inside the industry, as in what do the people want, right? What do the coaches want? What do the clients want? What's the future of the coaching industry? Where are we going? What products can we develop? What courses can we develop? How can we further make this industry safer, less chaotic, more valuable for everyone? That's what I mean when I say I have a keen observation as to what's going on inside the coaching industry, but I'm not looking at what anybody else is doing inside of this space, because we are the only ones doing the big things. I hope that clears that up. So yes, observation is one of the things that I have going for me when it comes to the coaching industry and understanding why it's valued at $20 billion. The second thing is participation. I've clearly got a huge participation inside of this business, right? There are only a small handful of people inside of the coaching space that are doing huge, life-changing, gigantic things in the valuations of millions of dollars. The Coaching Masters are, of course, one of the people that sit at that table. And so through pure participation, that is where I get this perspective from, right? And the last one is creation. I'm creating a lot inside of the coaching space. You know, me and Lewis and Johnny and the whole Coaching Masters team, we are very, very possibly, if not probably, if not certainly, creating more inside of the coaching space in a much shorter amount of time than anyone else is doing. We are the only coaching organization stepping into the world of virtual reality. We're the only coaching organization in the world that has a full functioning virtual reality training platform at the moment in development that people can try, right? We're stepping into the space of developing what is going to be the future of coaching inside of an app. We're stepping into the space of what is the future of coaching training. We're doing big things, right? Big things. We announced this internally when we spoke about our investment opportunity recently. So yes, Bettina, thank you so much for writing that in the comment section. Observation, participation, creation, right? So I'm observing the coaching industry, I'm participating in it, and I'm creating a lot inside of it. That is what gives me my perception as to why I believe the coaching industry is worth $20 billion, which at the moment is a firm fact and a statistic. You can see all sorts of different studies that have been done by the International Coaching Federation, also known as the ICF. You know, they like to do a lot of stuff like that. They like to do a lot of studies around the coaching space. And you know what? It's very useful for all of us to be able to see the results of those studies. So through their studies and through the results they've gathered and through their analysis, they have come to discover that the coaching industry is worth $20 billion. One other thing that they've come to discover, which is actually very useful to know, is that there is a compound annual growth rate of 6.9% yearly, right? This is an annual growth rate for the coaching industry. That means that the coaching industry gets bigger by just under 7% a year, right? Now, 7% might not sound like a lot, okay? But when it's compounded over time, it's a dramatic amount, right? Because let me just give you an example. Let's say, for instance, if you had £100, right? And I'll do this on my calculator so I can show you, right? So let's say you've got £100 and you add 7%, right? Plus 7% then gives you £107, right? Because 7% of 100 is 7. So if you had £100 and you plus 7%, you would then have £107. If you then plus 7% of that, you're not adding another 7 because 7 is 7% of 100. But 7% of 107 is a bigger number, right? So plus 7%, you're then adding 7.49, right? So then what you've got is 14.49. Then if you add another 7%, you're adding 7% of 114.49. So this may get confusing, but basically, in a roundabout way, every single time you add 7%, you're adding 7% to a bigger number, right? Because that number naturally gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Therefore, the 7% of that number is worth more and more and more. So a good way of doing this, just to give you your own example of this, if you get your calculator out, so get out your phone, bring out your calculator, and put 100 plus 7% equals, 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 plus 7% equals. What you'll notice is that through the compound effect, that number gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it gets dramatically bigger over time, right? If you keep adding 7% again and again and again and again, at first, that initial number only gets bigger by a little bit, but then eventually the jump is absolutely huge. So anyway, without going too much into this, because like I said, I don't want to be focusing too much on statistics, but the fact that there is just under 7% as a compound annual growth rate within the industry, bearing in mind that the industry has been around since the 1970s, now at the moment, the industry is growing dramatically year on year. That's all you need to know. Even if everything that I've just said over the last few minutes, you think, oh my God, what the fuck? I don't understand. I don't follow any of that. Even if you don't get any of that stuff, it's okay. If you're thinking, what, compound annual growth rate, compounding plus 7%, don't worry about it. All you need to know is that due to that, and it's also known as a CAGR, right? C-A-G-R, compound annual growth rate. Due to that, the coaching industry is growing dramatically over time, year on year. It's now worth $20 billion. Next year, it's going to be worth a lot more. The year after that, it's going to be worth a lot more. So that we're very excited about. Anyway, I want to just talk to you about my perception of why the coaching industry is growing so much, right? And I'm going to give you a handful of things. In fact, I'm going to give you 5 things. Now, I think that this falls into demand, accessibility, acceptability, fashion, and trends, right? 2 of which are very different things. But anyway, let's start with this. So demand. There is clearly more demand for coaching. If there wasn't more demand for coaching, then there wouldn't be a 7% compound annual growth rate. The industry wouldn't be worth $20 billion, considering it's been around since the 1970s. There's more demand. So in order to really understand that, I just want us to rewind a little bit and go back to the birth of coaching. Now, a lot of people will see coaching as a very, very Americanized thing, which it was for a very long time. Now, if we go back to the 1970s, it was made up, and this is the same as NLP as well. It was really made up of a collection of different modalities that were happening at the time. There was therapy, there was psychotherapy, there was all of these different things that were thrown into what we now as the cocktail of coaching, right? I'm not going to go through this massive list because I'm going to be listing off about 100 different modalities. But anyway, coaching has been around since the 70s, and for a long time, it very much hid in the shadows. It wasn't really out there. It wasn't at the forefront of everyone's mind. And everyone will know this name. Really, in all honesty, back in the 1980s, it took someone by the name of Tony Robbins to really start trying to put this into the mainstream. Now, Tony Robbins became very, very successful. He was doing different infomercials. He had all of his different programs on CD and on cassette, and he was releasing some fucking amazing books. And he was putting an absolutely huge dent in the industry. There's no doubt about it. The dent he's made in the industry will last forever. He'll go down in the history books. But still, the world as a whole, the vast majority were not listening. The ones that were listening were more than enough to make someone like Tony Robbins an extremely wealthy individual. I mean, Tony Robbins is a billionaire, right? And that billionaire status, of course, has come from a lot of investment. But there's no doubt about it that the vast majority of the money that has been made to go into investments has come from his coaching and all of the abilities and all of the products and everything that he has developed within the coaching space. So anyway, he's put a big dent in it, but the world as a whole at the time still were not listening, only a small percent. Now, demand has increased, right? Now, demand has increased due to the fact that people are experiencing the positive effects of coaching. There's no 2 ways about it. That's the only real way for a demand to increase dramatically inside of a particular space that is sustainable. Demand can increase for a particular product for a limited amount of time due to news, due to media, due to trendsetters, due to influencers, due to the right person saying that they're using this one particular product. But if there are not positive results and positive effects being felt and being experienced due to the product itself, there cannot be a continuous, sustainable increase in demand. There has been a continuous, sustainable increase in demand within the coaching space for coaching due to people experiencing positive, long-lasting effects of coaching. So that's the first thing. That's the first reason as to why it is worth $20 billion, is very simply because there has been a gigantic increase in demand. More people want to be coached. Before we move on, just diving into that in a little bit more detail as well. One of the reasons as to why more people want to be coached is because people are starting to experience what it feels like to save time due to being coached. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit more at the end of this podcast episode, but when you get coached by someone on a particular topic, what you're doing is really you're saving yourself a lot of time because they're helping you navigate yourself, your way through obstacles and through pitfalls and towards success much faster, more efficient way, therefore saving you a lot of time, saving you a lot of headache, saving you a lot of heartache, and moving you closer towards where you want to be much, much quicker. I keep trying to refrain from using the term time machine because I know I've used that a few times in the past, but that is very much what it is. It's like a time machine, right? Let's imagine for a moment you were in a relationship that was toxic, that was holding you back, that was making you feel down, And what you really craved is you craved companionship, you craved a partnership, you craved a relationship that actually worked. Now, if you were going to just try to crowbar your way through the negative relationship that you currently are experiencing in the hopes that maybe one day you may find the right person and you may happen to fall into a relationship that works, that is going to take such a fucking long time, and maybe it's never even going to happen. Let's say, for instance, you started working with a relationship coach, and that relationship coach allowed you to understand your core values. And by understanding your core values, that relationship coach allowed you to understand exactly what was important to you as a human being, as an individual, and therefore identifying exactly what was missing inside of your current relationship. Let's imagine for a moment they then got you to a point where you were able to increase your confidence enough to have an open and honest conversation with your current partner about what you're thinking and feeling. And as a result of that, you come to the realization, both of you, mutually, that that isn't the relationship for you. And then you become single. And then they carry on working with you to a point where they can help increase your level of communication and understanding around what it is you really truly want and what you truly value and how to identify that within another person. And then when you find someone else that you start dating, you're able to have that open, honest conversation first, knowing whether or not you're able to get into the right relationship. Boom, just as an example, right? That relationship coach has very potentially saved you fucking years of heartache and hurt and pain, and has accelerated the speed in which you are going to get the outcome you truly desire. That is the effect of coaching. That is the time machine that I'm talking about. And that is the reason as to why there is more demand, because people are experiencing the positive effect of being coached. I can get all of the statistics out in the world to talk about as to why it's a $20 billion industry, but that is the fucking number one reason. Because people are genuinely seeing that this shit works. It really fucking works, right? Chris got in the comments there. Boom. Yes. Boom indeed, Chris. The second reason as to why this industry is growing rapidly with a compound annual growth rate of just under 7% a year, it is far more accessible than it has ever been before. Just think about the medium in which you're listening to me speak from my heart at the moment. You're listening to me wherever you are in the world. You don't have to be in the same country. You don't have to be on the same continent. You don't have to be on the same time zone. You don't even need to be listening to this live right now, which a lot of people are. But you could be listening to this in a year's time, in 10 years' time, of which, by the way, the industry is going to be worth a hell of a lot more than 20 billion. And the compound annual growth rate is going to be more than 7%. But anyway, it's more accessible, right? The internet has made this stuff more accessible. Technology has made this stuff more accessible. There's absolutely no doubts about that whatsoever. You can be listening to this on the podcast. You could be listening to this live. You could be listening to this on YouTube. You could be listening to this within one of my training. You could be listening to this on one of my courses. You could very well be watching me deliver this exact same talk as my virtual reality avatar with your headset on, and we are literally standing in the same room opposite each other having this conversation. You could be listening to this in so many different formats, and that is because of accessibility. Coaching itself has become far more accessible very, 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 very quickly. There was a time, now let me tell you a little insight into my own personal experience. When I first started my coaching academy, right? This was before me and Lewis even met. I had an offline coaching academy. So I was qualifying and accrediting coaches offline. I wasn't even utilizing the online space. I was born November 1989. I'm 32 years old. I'm as much of a millennial as anyone can possibly get. And I still didn't even really truly understand the value and the power of using the internet and using the online space. So I was, of course, using it, but I wasn't using it to its fullest extent. So what I was doing at the time is I was running a series of Facebook ads, right, using tech. I was using a Facebook ads marketing organization to run ads to an organization called Eventbrite. Now, I'm sure Eventbrite probably still exists. It's like an online platform where you can book tickets to events. And I was running Facebook ads to an event I was running offline, a little office in Russell Square in the middle of London. And I was getting people to then click on this Facebook ad, go to Eventbrite and book a free ticket where I was going to teach them about how they could become a coach. Then what I was hoping people would do, I was hoping that people would leave work, have the time and the energy and the focus to be able to get on a train, travel to Russell Square and go and sit in this room with me for 2 hours as I spoke to them about the power of becoming a coach, in the hopes that at the end of that, they would sign up to my course where I could qualify them as a coach. And you know what? I was doing pretty well. It was going pretty good. I was getting people in that room. I was getting people excited. They were signing up to my courses. Little did I know, I was absolutely scratching the surface of what my potential was, because I was not utilizing the internet and the online space in the truest possible form. I didn't have to go to that office in Russell Square. I could have done this. I could have done a Facebook Live in front of way more people, and I wouldn't have needed to have asked anyone to leave their homes. You could have watched this on your commute home. So anyway, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to use that story to really emphasize how in its infancy this stuff really is, right? I'm 32 years old. I was 27 at the time, right? 26, 27, born in 1989, full-blown millennial, and I still did not even really utilize the online space. Now, thankfully, we are utilizing the online space. I believe we're using the online space and we're maxing it out as much as we can at the moment, right? Due to the amount of knowledge that we have, but I still feel like we're truly scratching the surface as to what is possible. Why is this important? This is important because of point number 2 that I keep talking about, accessibility. Coaching in general is more accessible to everyone right now because coaching has moved fully and firmly into the online space. When I coach people one-to-one, face-to-face, right, in a room, which happens very, very rarely now. In fact, I don't do it anymore. There's one last remaining very high-paying client who wants me to still do face-to-face sessions with him. And in all honesty, I don't think I'm going to do it. I really don't think I'm going to do it. Because this is just far more accessible and it's far easier for me and you and for everybody else. And I can add more value this way. I know that for sure. I can add way more value. So when I do that, or rarely at the moment, right? But when I did do it, and I did do this stuff face to face, it really wasn't any different apart from the fact that I had to fucking go somewhere and my client had to go somewhere and we had to meet in the middle. I just don't see the point. This is exactly how I deliver coaching sessions, even when it's in the room. I'm sitting here, I'm looking you in the face, we're talking one-on-one. If we do a coaching session via Zoom, it is, in my opinion, more valuable than offline because we're both in the comfort of our own space. It's a bit safer, it's a bit more private. So anyway, it's way more accessible. Not to mention now that people can build their profiles online, people can connect with each other online, they can converse online. I mean, how nice is it now knowing that when you're communicating with a potential client, you're not reliant on sending emails and writing text messages. You can shoot a voice note, you can shoot a video. You know what? I would say 90% of the communication I have with individuals right now is with people all around the world and just shooting videos back and forth. Like, God bless the voice note, right? God bless the voice note. I'm so fucking happy that the voice note was created. You can just, boom, you touch your phone. There you go. You can talk into it. I can send you a message, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you want to create a serious connection with someone, take it one step further. It doesn't take you any more time and just hit the video and just talk to them like this instead. And then send a little clip, you know what? Say what you need to say. And that is such a quick, boom, instant connection. There's a little tip for all of you coaches out there. When you're communicating with your potential clients, right? I don't know why sometimes I go to avoid saying the word leads. Maybe it's just because it feels a little bit too marketing. But anyway, of course, at that stage in the process, that's what they are. When you're talking to your leads, your potential clients, little tip for you. Don't send written messages. Definitely send voice notes, but take it one step further than that and send a video instead. It doesn't take you any more time, and I can guarantee you it will absolutely separate you from everyone else. It will separate you from the pack. It will have them feeling heard. It will have them feeling unique. It will have them feeling special, which is exactly how they should be feeling. And it will create a bond and a level of trust with you that goes above and beyond writing a fucking email. Trust me, just be personable and shoot that video. So anyway, as a whole, the industry is way more accessible. We are more accessible to clients. They are more accessible to us. The training is more accessible because it's done entirely online. The motivation, the inspiration, the connection, it's all more accessible. You can do it all from your home, right? As soon as you get to a point where you can do everything from your fucking house, that is what I would consider to be accessible, right? Would you agree? That is what I consider to be accessible. So what do we know at the moment? Over the last few years, there has been a boom in demand. We know that, right? There's been a gigantic boom in the amount of people that want to be coached because they have in some way witnessed someone else being coached, right? And they've seen the results and they're like, I want a piece of that. Or they have experienced it themselves and they have felt the effects of that time machine I'm talking about and then being able to get closer towards their goals. Their perception has been shifted. Their confidence has been increased. Their world has opened up, right, in one way or another, and they want more of it. So we know that there's a big boom in demand, and we know that it's more accessible, right, due to the internet, due to technology. We know that, okay? The third thing is it's more acceptable, right? Not only more accessible, but more acceptable. So let's read a couple of comments. Pretty Flowers, hello, says, I went all the way to London, paid for a train ticket, returned from Leeds, paid money for my accommodations and paid for my coaching course with 2 Tony Robbins coaches, Nikki and Tony V, cost a small fortune, plus the time I spent. Now online Zoom course available with coaching masters is much easier, right? Now, Pretty Flowers in the comments there, 100%, I hear you, I love that, I respect that, and trust me, you are not alone, right? You are not alone in any way, shape, or form. So many people over the years have been in that same position, me included, right? Me included. Because bear in mind, when I became a coach, the coaching masters obviously didn't exist, right? We created that form of being able to fully become fully qualified, fully accredited online with your community from the comfort of your own home, right? So that didn't exist when I first became a coach. I also had to get on that train and go to that fucking hotel lobby or go to that office conference room and pay that small fortune and give up 2 weeks of my life for them to go and teach like the absolute basics with pen and paper. I've been there, right? I get you. I feel you. And of course, now that is a big driver behind TCM is making this stuff more accessible. Nicola Flaherty in the comments says, Liam, I absolutely love you. Your words are gold. Nicola, I love you. I love you, right? Never, ever forget that. Never make any mistake about it. I love all of you guys. I love each and every one of you. And you know what? There's something that I want to say as well, and this really just comes straight from the heart. When you level up, and all of you 100% will experience this, right? I have no doubts about it. In fact, I can imagine a lot of you have already experienced this on some level. When you level up and when you evolve, there will always be people that in some way resent that and will try absolutely everything they can to drag you down and pull you down, right? Now, there's actually, this is called crab theory, right? Everybody remember crab theory. Now, what that means is if you take a bucket and you put some crabs in the bucket, if any one of those crabs tries to climb out of the bucket, the other crabs actually pull them back down, right? Because they don't want any of the other crabs to elevate above the environment they're currently in. So it's called crab theory, right? So it happens. It absolutely happens. Now, there's one thing that I want each and every one of you to know, and that is I love you all, right? So much to the point where I can't express it enough. I love you. I respect you. You are coaching masters. I've always got your best interests at heart. I've always got your back. And I'm always elevating. I'm always taking shit to the next level. And every time I do that, there will 100% always be people that replicate crab theory and that will always try to drag me back down, right? Through all different ways. People fuck knows, right? I'm just not listening to it, right? I'm in my own lane. But for you guys that are here and you're here to support the coaching masters and you're here to learn and you're here to grow and you're here to become the best coaches that you can be, I've got your back. Just know that I've always got your back. Regardless of where we elevate to, I have always got your back. You will always hear things. You'll always see things. There'll always be a bit of crab theory. There will always be people trying to drag us back down. I've got your back. So yeah, anyway, Nicola, I love you too. I love all of you. Who else is in the comments here? Yes, Nina says, accessibility, 100% speaking my language. I love that. Darren says, love listening to you and your passion, just beginning recovery and resilience coaching business. Yes, Darren, that is absolutely quality. I love you too, Shirley. I love all of you guys. Carol says, oh yes, been there with the crab theory when I did MLM. Yep, I bet, I can imagine. And Nicola says, sometimes as honest and open as you absolutely are, you have to look beyond what you're saying and see and feel the gold from you. Oh, I love that. You have to see your mindset, your enthusiasm, your passion, and your complete belief in what you're doing. Yes, absolutely agree, Nicola. Totally agree. So yes, the third thing, right? Acceptability. It's definitely becoming more acceptable. Carol made an interesting comment a minute ago where she said there's not as much pushback as before. It's more acceptable. Now, this is a really interesting one, right? Acceptability is a really interesting one because this, in so many respects, is a generational thing. Like, it really is. And because of that, there's no one to blame for this. It's just a generational thing. But I'll give you a great example, right? My dad, I love my dad more than words could ever explain and ever describe. My dad's my hero. My dad is the kindest man you'll ever meet. He's the funniest man you'll ever meet. He just wants everybody else to be okay. For those of you that of course know, I sadly lost my dad to suicide in October 2018. By a long stretch, the hardest thing I've ever experienced, of course, and still to this day, the hardest thing I am currently experiencing. My dad was of the generation where he found it difficult to talk about how he was feeling, right? That's not my dad's fault. That's part of my dad's upbringing. It was part of his generation. It's part of where he came from. He was by no stretch of the imagination unusual in that sense, right? My dad would be 62 at the moment, I believe, 62. He celebrated his 60th birthday the year that he died in 2018. Oh, actually, oh my God, no way. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. He'd be 64. My God, that has gone so quick. It can't have been 4 years. It's going to be 4 years this October that my dad died. That is really bizarre. I thought it was 2 years. I thought it was half the time. That's just crazy how fast that goes. So that means he's born in 1958, 1890. That means this year, next month, he would have turned 64, right? 64. So my dad was born in 1958, right? He would be 64 years old this year if he was still alive. He died when he was 60. Now let me know in the comments, right? Are you from that generation, or do you know someone from that generation? And would you or would you not agree that in general, right? In general, this is a generalization. So it's not going to be for everyone across the board. That's obvious. But in general, I have found that the individuals that I know from that generation find it more difficult to talk about how they're feeling, okay? Now, at the age that they are now, they're probably finding it a bit easier because generationally, at the moment, it's more accepted to talk about how you're feeling. But my dad, I could never imagine him my age talking about how he's feeling, right? I could never imagine that. My dad in his later years would have found it a bit easier just from the fact that I would have asked some questions around how he was feeling. And therefore, if I asked the questions, then maybe he would open up a bit more, right? But in general, it's not what he would offer up very freely, right? It's not immediately where he would go. He wouldn't immediately start talking about how he was feeling. Now, I think about my grandpa, who was my mum's dad. I didn't actually know my dad's dad. He died when I was very young. He was exactly the same, you know, if not worse, right? I could never remember once having a conversation with my grandpa about feelings. Not once. It doesn't come from a mean place. It doesn't come from like a sinister place or a place of disrespect, or it doesn't come from a place where they don't care. That's definitely not true. In general, these were some of the most caring men I've ever met. In fact, I know they cared about me very deeply. I know that for a fact. It didn't come from a place of not caring, but It was just like a generational thing. It just wasn't the done thing, right? It wasn't normal. It wasn't as accepted to say, this is exactly what I'm feeling. This is what I'm finding difficult to process. This is what I really want. These are the challenges that I'm faced with. This is what I dislike about my current situation. These are the limiting beliefs I have about myself. It just wasn't a thing, right? It just didn't seem like it was a thing. So anyway, what I've recognized just as pure perception within the industry as a whole is I've just recognized that generationally it's becoming easier and more accepted to talk about your feelings, right? It's becoming far easier to actually express the way that we're thinking, the reasons behind that, what it is we really want, what's confusing us, what's holding us back, what we believe, what we don't believe, what we value, what's important. All of the things that we really encourage and emphasize inside of the coaching space is now generally becoming more normal, and it's generally becoming more accepted. So with that in mind, that also, of course, is going to contribute towards the coaching business and the coaching industry as a whole having that $20 billion valuation. Because if that wasn't more acceptable, then it would be a taboo industry. And for a while, it was a taboo industry. There's no fucking doubt about it. It was a taboo industry for a while. It did hide in the shadows. And I don't have any doubts that that is partly because it was taboo to speak about our values and our beliefs and our setbacks and our feelings and all of the stuff that I've just mentioned, right? So I won't go back around in circles. But anyway, so let's recap a little bit. There's more demand. It's more accessible. It's more acceptable. Now, even if we just look at those three alone, there is, of course, going to be an increase within the value of the coaching industry. Think about those things working in your favor as coaches. Those three things are hugely working in your favor. And they are three things that we want to celebrate and emphasize and support as much as possible. Support the fact that there's more demand and there's more people looking to be coached. Support the fact that it's more accessible and that everything is moving online. Therefore, we can connect with everyone around the world. Support the fact that it's more acceptable that we speak about how we're thinking and feeling and what we want and what we don't want and what's holding us back and what we value and what we believe. Really embrace those things and really, really allow those things to be celebrated because they are contributing towards your industry being worth more money. Your industry booming. The fourth thing is fashion. Now, I don't mean fashion as in high fashion, Vogue, Anna Wintour. I'm not talking that kind of fashion, right? Now, that kind of fashion, I believe in one way or another, is going to end up reaching in and want to claim their piece of the coaching industry. Right, the date is March 24th, 2022. I want everybody to mark this as the day that I said two things that I think are absolutely going to come into fruition at some point in the future. The first thing that I truly believe is going to happen is that I believe the world of fashion, and I'm talking about fashion, Anna Wintour, Vogue, that kind of fashion. I believe that world of fashion is going to reach into the coaching industry and want their piece of that pie because they will realize that there will be a fashionable trend to be inside of the coaching space at some point in the near future, right? I believe that's going to happen. The second thing, this is totally random and out of left field, but you know how there's always like a holiday destination hotspot, right? You know how there's always like a hotspot? It's like the Maldives, Bora Bora, Fiji. There's all of these different places that's like, wow, that's the place to be. Mark my words, right? You heard it here first, folks. Mark my words. I truly believe at some point in the near future, the new place to go will be Samoa, right? It will be Samoa. Just trust me on that. Go and Google pictures of Samoa, right? Gorgeous scenery in Samoa. Do you know anyone that's ever gone, oh, where are you going on holiday this year, Frank? Oh, I'm going to Samoa. I've never heard anyone say that. Maybe you have if you're from more that part of the world, maybe Australia, but in the UK, I've never heard anyone say that. But just mark my words, right? Samoa is going to be the place to be. Anyway, what am I talking about when I say fashion? One of the missions that I've always had for the coaching masters is this, okay? And I've said this since even before the coaching masters existed. I used to say this when I got all of those people in a room with me in these hotels and I was trying to sell them coaching courses before, right? I want to make having a coach as fashionable as having a personal trainer. That is a personal mission that I've got. I want to make having a coach as fashionable as having a personal trainer. Now, having a personal trainer is a badge of honor, right? It's fashionable. Everyone likes the idea that they have got the resources to be able to have one-to-one personal training sessions on a regular basis, right? I work with my PT. I work with my personal trainer, one-on-one, to get my body looking good. It's like a fashionable badge of honor. I want everybody to be just as proud to be working with their confidence coach, their mindset coach, their money coach, their sleep coach, their relationship coach, their life coach. I want people to have that badge of honor. I want to make it that fashionable that people talk about having their session with their PT, but what's even more fashionable is that they've got their session with their life coach later on that day, their mindset coach, their confidence coach. Now, I believe that we've made a huge dent in the industry when it comes to making it fashionable. Let me know in the comments, for all Coaching Masters members that are here and you've seen what we've created over the last 3 years, let me know if you do or don't agree with that. Have we or have we not, in one way or another, made the coaching industry more fashionable than what it was a few years ago? Because trust me, a few years ago, the idea of when I first got into this industry, right, back in 2007, and it was 17 when I first became a coach. But really, you know, when I first studied towards my NLP practitioner in 2006, I'm telling you, right, the idea of coaching and fashion being one was not a thing. Right? It was not a thing, right? There was absolutely no way that anyone would consider coaching fashionable. They would consider it valuable. They would consider it interesting. They would consider it life-changing if they've experienced it. But no one was considering it fashionable, right? No one. But we came along and went, boom, we're going to make coaching fashionable. And we have tried to do that, and we've done it, and we will continue to do that. But anyway, that's one of the things that has contributed towards that big valuation as well, is the fact that it's now a fashionable thing to do. It's a cool thing to do. It's a cool thing to be part of. There's absolutely no doubts about that whatsoever. When you are a coach and you're adding value to people's lives and you're working entirely from your laptop and you have the freedom to be able to go where you want because you know that you can add that value through the medium of Zoom, and you're getting people saying, fuck me, that person changed my life. They changed my mindset. I'm in a completely different place because of that individual, because of that coach. It's like the fucking modern day superhero, right? There's something very fashionable about being able to do that whilst being able to make a better income than you're making at your day job. And if you want, you can do it from home. You can do it on your travels. You can do it on the move, right? So fashion is another reason as to why the valuation is growing and growing and growing. The final one, the fifth and final one, as we round off this podcast episode, are trendsetters. Now, you may think that this is like directly linked to it being fashionable, and in one way it is. But instead of the industry being fashionable as a whole, which I believe we are moving in that direction in a very, very, very fast way, it's more so focused on the influencers within the industry, right? The people that, and when I say influencers, I'm not referring to those individuals that you see on Instagram selling fucking protein shakes, right? And the fucking fragrance things you put in your car. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about truly influential individuals standing up and saying, I have a coach. I have one. And they are completely and utterly paramount when it comes to my success. And I wouldn't be where I am today without my coach. And now I have many, right? I'm talking the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Leonardo DiCaprio, Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey, Hugh Jackman. Like, there are so many hugely, wildly successful people in this world that have been very open about having a coach and being coached, and that being the absolute primary thing that has got them to where they are today. I did a whole podcast episode about this. Scroll back. Go and scroll back through the episodes. I can't remember what it was called. It was called something like Why Every Successful Person Has a Coach, right? Go and listen to that episode. There are so many genuine trendsetters, genuine influencers, genuinely very successful people that say the reason as to why I am where I am today is because of my coach. Now that has influenced the industry in a huge way, because now there are more and more people that are considered genuine trendsetters saying that. Of course, there are more people that want to get on board, and therefore more people in the industry. Those people have a positive experience, and then the demand increases and so on and so forth. So thank you, Bettina, in the comments there. I love that you've listed out the things that I've said. So yeah, there's more demand. It's more accessible. It's more acceptable. It's more fashionable. And there are some big name trendsetters saying, I couldn't have done it without coaching. Now, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I could have thrown around a load of statistics, and there are loads, right? Just go and look at all of the different studies that have been done by the ICF and all of these different sources and whatever. And it's really interesting and it's really good to know and it's really important stuff because it's the industry that you are in. I wanted to come at this from a perspective of what I mentioned before, right? Of my observation, of my participation and my creation inside of the coaching space, because I believe I've earned the right to speak from my perspective and to say that I have a viewpoint that matters inside of this industry. I have observation that really counts. I have a participation. I'm one of the people sitting at that table. I've created a lot within the coaching space. I've earned the right to say, look, I've got a viewpoint here based on what the fuck is going on inside of this industry. I think these are the things that are happening. And the statistics are important and the sources are important and the studies are important. But if you just zoom out, you just look. You just got to look. That's it, really. You just got to look from inside what's going on. And then you've got to zoom out and look with a bird's eye view and ask yourself what's happening to really increase the value of this entire industry. It's because there's way more demand. It's because it's way more accessible than it used to be. It's because it's a lot acceptable generationally. It's because it's becoming fashionable, and there are some big name trendsetters that are saying I couldn't have done it without coaching. That's the reason. Those are the 5 major reasons. So just to round this up, when it comes to coaching itself, there are some really specific reasons as to why it's beneficial to be coached, to be a client and to receive coaching. It saves you a lot of time. It helps you make some serious progress towards what it is you desire. And as a result, you become happier, you become clearer, you become more consistent, you become more successful. I have coaches. I would not be where I am today without being coached. There is no way in hell I would be where I am today without being coached. I can say that with absolute certainty. The benefits of being a coach, you get to work entirely online because of the accessibility that we've spoken about. You have a job that literally adds value to people's lives, right? It doesn't get better than that, right? It doesn't get more valuable than that. And you, as an individual, you are the asset inside of your business. It means that you're running a business that requires no stock, no raw material, no physical location, right? You are the business. The only product development needed is your own knowledge and your own skill set as a coach. The only product needed is just you. The only physical location needed is wherever you've got a Wi-Fi connection, Zoom, and a laptop, and you can add value to people's lives. You are the asset inside of your business. That is why it is an amazing thing to be a coach. That's why it's an amazing thing to be coached. And those are the 5 major reasons as to why this is now a $20 billion industry and it's growing every year at a compound annual growth rate of just under 7%. It's fucking mind-blowing where we're going to take this. And the Coaching Masters are the organization that are going to take it there. I learned recently, when someone says this to you, you realize the power of this, right? Now, the reason as to why Google absolutely wholeheartedly dominate the industry in which they are in. Now, the industry in which they are in are the search industry, right? That's the industry they're in. They're in the search-based industry. So, of course, there's Google, there's Yahoo, there's all these other things, right? The reason as to why Google have dominated it so much is because Google, in the dictionary, is now considered a verb, right? Google is now in the dictionary as a verb because it's a doing word. It's something you do, is you Google, right? You Google something. Now, just think about this for a minute. The reason as to why they've dominated is because they're in the search industry and they have literally become the new word for search. Search has been replaced with their company name, Google. You don't search something, you Google it, right? It's literally a verb in the dictionary, and that is why they own 84% of all of searches across the whole of the internet. And if I'm being honest, I'm surprised. I thought the number would actually be more like 99%, right? But anyway, they own 84% of searches. The reason as to why I'm telling you this is because one of the missions that we've got at the Coaching Masters, which will happen, it will undoubtedly happen, and it will be the reason as to why we own the coaching industry, is because we will get to a point when where people hear the word coaching, they think the word masters. Mark my words. Mark my words. I promise you that will happen. When people hear the word Google, they think search. Okay? When people hear the word coaching, they will think masters. It's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all deeply, dearly, wholeheartedly with everything that I've got. I respect you for being here. I love you for being here. I believe in you because you're here. You are valued. You're strong. You're independent. You're also glamorous. You're luxurious. You're valuable. Everything about you is completely 100% unique. Everything about you. And that makes you the rarest diamond in existence. And I promise you right now, people will pay a lot of money for the rarest diamond in existence. And that is you. I love you all. Everyone in the comments saying, I hope you feel better. Thank you so much. I've been horrifically sick the last couple of days. I'm feeling pretty rough right now, but I'm here to bring the value to all of you incredible coaching masters. Mwah! For all of you Coaching Masters members, I will see you inside of the Coaching Masters community for a very quick TCM TV. For those of you that are listening to this that still haven't joined TCM, please click that link in the description of the podcast or the live and book your free strategy call with the Coaching Masters team of strategy coaches, and they can talk to you about joining our $9.99 a month membership, which is just going to be so valuable to you. I can't even explain. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I will speak to you very, very soon. Keep coaching your way to freedom, and I will see you inside of the Coaching Masters community. Thanks, guys.